Hi everyone, this is Julie Cantillon, the Associate Director for Schools for the Diocese of San Diego. We just want to begin by thanking everyone for their participation in their first diocesan-wide PD plan, and we wanted to touch base with you, the ELA leadership teams, to address any confusions that you may be able to assist your teachers with during the next couple of months before our January sessions. So this screencast is really just meant for the ELA leadership teams at your school sites. Okay, we'll begin with an update. So we've heard your feedback and we are continuing to learn and grow in this process. We learned that there was and is a lot of confusion. I know that Mary Cordero has been to many of your schools and we are working as a team to improve our process. We have reviewed the unit titles that you created in groups and we realized that we need to solidify this learning before we move forward. Some of those were shared in the Google Drive after you met the first time in September. Again, this is the first time we've tried something this ambitious and we knew there would be bumps. So to respond to that, in the late summer, we developed a curriculum leadership team at our diocese. And there's at least one representative from each participating cluster on the team. The main focus of this team for this year is to help guide this process of the diocesan-wide professional learning plan. And we really do value your feedback, so please email me if you would like to get in touch with your curriculum leadership team representative, and I'd be happy to give you her contact information. We are working to right the ship, and so we are making some adjustments in what we're going to ask you to work on during these next few months. And basically there's a selection of options, including just kind of sticking with what you're doing and focusing on the teaching, rather than move forward with ELA curriculum mapping until we've really been able to right the ship. Again, this screencast is only meant for school leadership teams, as you all know your teachers best. As a leadership team, you know the capacity of your teachers. If they are anxious to continue mapping right now, you can have them go ahead. You may want them to start in other subject areas with mapping in Atlas. If you have teachers who are very confused and overwhelmed, please tell them that we are not expecting any progress by January because of this confusion and they're not alone. If you have teachers who are confused but still want to tackle something, try to focus their energy on deepening their understanding of the map components, and that's what we're going to review a bit in these slides, the resources that are available to you. These slides with the hyperlinks are available to modify, as are the activities. So once you review the slides in this presentation, choose one or two areas to focus your work on with your staff, again, if they are anxious to get started with deepening their learning. For example, you could focus on developing essential questions or creating big ideas. Both of these components of the map that I just used in those examples were something that we really had a lot of confusion around during those September sessions, and it was reflected in the sample maps that we saw. So please use any of this information to tailor it to the specific needs of your faculty. You may need to review some of this information with your staff, and beginning with what is curriculum mapping. Again, every school will have their unique instructional materials, but we can work toward having some common threads among our schools. However, we're not there yet. And something that we heard over and over again is there's a sense that some of the teachers are feeling we're saying, don't use your instructional materials. However, that's the furthest thing from the case, or we're asking you to use those more intentionally. This is another resource you may want to share with your staff. This is a video of Heidi Hayes-Jacobs outlining the phases of mapping. I would suggest showing this to your faculty as it may help to anchor their learning. The 4 phases are laying the foundation for curriculum change, which we think might have been skimmed over in the beginning, which led to a lot of the confusion. Phase 2 is launching the process of curriculum change. Phase 3, maintaining, sustaining, and integrating. And then finally, phase 4 would be advanced mapping tasks. You won't be able to play this video during our screencast, but the PowerPoint is available to you with all of these slides. Again, just some slides that you could review with your staff depending on their level of comfort with curriculum mapping. Now we're asking you to take a step back and spend some time exploring the components of the maps. If you have Atlas, your teachers may continue diary mapping in other subject areas, but work on considering each component more deeply. Again, you may have gotten started with ELA mapping, and that's fine, but we do realize we need to solidify that learning. And what we'd like is if they could focus on other curricular areas until January, so that way we could really make sure that what we're doing in ELA is intentional. These again are the components of the diocesan map. And these components are all on Atlas. Here is the diocesan unit template. And these highlighted components were the areas that could be a focus of collaborative mapping. Basically the standards, the content, knowledge, and the skills. Here's another resource that you can review with your teachers too, which is very helpful because it does have hyperlinks within the documents, considerations, and examples. So this will help really take a deep dive into some of those components that may still be a little bit unclear for participants. So you can click right on it here. And you may choose to do spend some more time on big ideas and essential questions. And when we reviewed the maps, and I know Mary has been at some of the schools to address this, there was a lot of misunderstanding centered around what a big idea is, what an essential question is. So the resources that we're going to provide should provide some assistance. Catholic identity. A great resource for including Catholic identity in your unit plans is CICI, and that stands for Catholic Identity Curriculum Integration, and that's website will also be included in the resources that you are provided. This was definitely a terminology issue, and we apologize for that. In the standards-based report card pilot, these standards were referred to as learning targets, and those were basically written in parent-friendly language, which makes sense because it was written on a report card. So we are going to work on clarifying this, but until then you can review again these slides or any of the resources that are provided, and we'll address this directly in January. Again, we're just going through these slides. You may or may not choose to review some of these with your staff. Here are some examples for the learning activities component of the map. You can click on these hyperlinks and it will show you some examples from Atlas on how these learning activities are organized. There is no right way to do it, so it might be helpful to review with your staff some different ways that teachers are doing it by time, by classroom routine or structure, and by content, are just 3 examples. Assessments, this is a biggie. We'll provide some resources on this if you feel like your staff needs a little bit of background knowledge in this area before beginning the unit mapping. Differentiation, we use the Tomlinson model. So just reviewing with your staff what are different ways that teachers can share. You might talk about that, how they differentiate in their classroom currently, or you could also click on this link too, which will take you to the Tomlinson model for differentiating based on content, on process, or on product. Technology integration. And I'd encourage you, if your staff hasn't reviewed the SAMR model, to spend some time on that if you can. And the SAMR model, SAMR, we have some resources for that, and it talks about meaningful integration of technology and not just integration of technology for the sake of it. So again, it's called the SAMR model, and we'll provide resources to you. Here are some general resources for exploration. including on UBD curriculum rubrics and curriculum map rubrics, and the Atlas training video playlist. So I guess what we're asking you all is to focus on 1 to 2 areas where your staff could use a little bit more background knowledge before January, rather than continue on trying to develop what we initially started as collaborative maps in ELA. We are taking a couple steps back and just really solidifying or trying to solidify the knowledge that we think we needed to have solidified in order to go forward. Here's a great video if you feel so inclined. Who Moved My Cheese? It's basically on change processes. It's kind of funny and cute if you'd like to show it with your staff. And here are some basic buckets that you may consider addressing with your staff prior to our meeting in January. And these are all going to be listed with some resources for you to decide which resources may be best to address these during the next couple months. And of course, you can always email me or talk to Mary Cordero if you have any questions with this. And although these are broad topics, if each school explores 1 to 2 of these concepts prior to our January sessions, we will have laid some of the groundwork necessary for mapping. Again, we did hear your feedback and we are making significant changes starting in January. But these are all still components that will need the teachers to have some more background knowledge on before continuing. If your school has not unpacked the ELA Common Core State Standards yet, please use the links on the resources page to work on that rather than this, because it is essential that your teachers know at least their grade level standards before continuing on in the process. Here is my contact information. Feel free to contact me with any questions. All of these questions that you've been asking throughout the month and a half or so, we really took into consideration and want to make sure that we are providing as much support as we can for you. Mary Cordero is also available for questions and comments, and I know some of you already have her cell phone and her email address. She's very happy to answer your questions as well, and she'll be continuing to focus on her work with the schools and with the teachers. So we appreciate your time. Again, you'll receive the slides for this presentation as well as a sheet of resources to address each of the components as you see fit. Again, another option is to simply hold off and wait until January, and then we can continue on. Again, our goal is to right the ship. So we hope you have a fabulous week, and thank you for taking the time, and take care.